It's hard to say. I mean, he's never done it, right? So it's a leap of faith. I do think it's interesting that he is very close with Canales, but he's not Dave Canales. And you guys know that Canales' benching of Young, that 24 season, like that did some big time damage to their relationship. And to Canales' credit and to Bryce's, I mean, I think both of them worked to make reparations to their relationship. But I don't know. I think this might be better for Bryce Young ultimately to have a different play caller. And again, I'm not. I think most of the wounds have been scarred over from the Canales Bryce relationship, but that was real. And there was a chasm there, if you will. And so I think folks, I think Bryce is going to be excited to have someone else calling it, and sort of see where it goes. Idzik's a smart guy. I mean, like he grew up in the league. His grandfather was a coach in the league. His dad was a coach and then GM. And so, but you just don't know. I mean, like I did a story with one of our Broncos writers where we combined on talking to first year play callers this year, because there are a lot of them. There's like 6 of them. Yeah. And so I would, at the owners meetings out in Phoenix, I remember talking to Joe Brady, who his first year here, he's dealing with COVID as his first year. And some of them make it, like, and some of them don't right away. Like Joe Brady's, had to get fired and then kind of, have a resurgence with Buffalo. So hopefully that's not the case with Idzik. You'd hate to see this team and this offense take a step back after last year was, such a magical year for kind of reigniting this fan base. But you're optimistic about Brad Idzik, but I think it's be hard to say that he's going to be great or he's going to be terrible or he's going to be average. I don't know.
Sheena, you talked about those games being close and like Bryce being clutch down the stretches. Some people will say that if we open the offense up more, some of these games don't have to necessarily be close. Some people think that Dave Canales is probably holding back Bryce Young because of being a little bit conservative. I guess, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think Brad Idzik can push, I guess, different buttons? Because it's probably going to be, I guess, the same recipe, I guess, per se, but it's a different cook.
I think Brad Idzik is going to air that thing out. I do think that. I think he's going to give him a little bit more agency. I know we don't speak his name around here anymore, but Frank Reich, a couple years ago, famously said that, Bryce doesn't have the keys to the car. He's able to drive the bicycle around the neighborhood. And it was kind of like, yeah, we've got the reins tight on him. We don't trust him. And so again, night and day. We're gonna, after that comment, we're gonna put rookie season Bryce to bed. But like you said, Joe, this is Brad Idzik's first time calling plays. Dave Canales is a third-year head coach. So I think that people are forgetting the newness, not just of Bryce. Bryce entered the league with, whatever was going on in 23, but then boom, you have a first-year head coach. You have a first-time GM, so all of these things are first. And then now you have a first-time, you have an OC that's calling plays, live action regular season games for the first time. So there is a learning curve. There is a learning curve. And someone said in the comments, this shouldn't be a make or break year because we don't know what effect the OC change is going to have. And I agree with that. And I mean, it can sound to people like we're making excuses, but the fact of the matter is, again, this is new. These are still training wheels. There's a massive learning curve. And for them to be able to win the division speaks to a lot because, that was what Dave Canales' second year as a head coach.
Yep.
Year 2 as a head coach. And I think that we forget that sometimes. We forget that he's still new and he's still learning. Now he's realizing that, hey, I can't manage this game as well as the head coach if I'm calling these plays. He knows that there were a couple of questionable officiating calls that he would have liked to go back and challenge had he had time to do that, but he was busy trying to get the next play call out. So I think that that's another thing that changes. I think that we see the Panthers finally maybe get some calls that they weren't getting last year. And I mean, the calls that were against them were egregious.
That Bucks
and
game
again, They were horrible. But if Dave Canales doesn't have this, I have to call the next play, on his shoulders, he can kind of sit in it for a second. But let me throw this red challenge flag out. And I think that that's another factor of it that we kind of, tend to gloss over a little bit, because people get stuck on looking at those numbers and those stats, and they're not looking at the situations that are on the field. And I think that that's what happens a lot with this team, because I think the Panthers fans still have a great deal of PTSD.
Yeah.
I understand it. I get it.
For sure.
I get it. I understand. But I do think that those are nuanced things that, we have to take into account. And I do think that Brad Idzik takes some shots downfield. I don't know why I think that, but I do think that he loosens the reins quite a bit.
Because he has that receiver coach background. And I think the person that's going to see the most benefit from this, not that he wouldn't anyway, is probably Tedero McMillan. I feel like Brad is just the vibe I get when he talks about him. I feel like he's a big T-Mac fan. We heard the stuff about him being in the slot more from Cameron Wolf. I think T-Mac is set up for a pretty big year, just based off of the creativity and certain things they're going to try to get him the football. And I agree with you. I think I find myself watching the games thinking, like, I know Dave is a God-fearing man, but if you just drop a couple F-bombs, cuss out the refs one at a time, and you argue for the next call. Don't worry about the call that happened, but argue for the next call. Just thinking about the Bucs game, that backwards pass, it felt like if he was to kind of just like stop the game and yell at the ref, they could have got it right from a procedure standpoint. It just felt like it was mishandled, and him so focused on getting the next play in, because that was a big struggle for them, not getting the play in enough time. It felt like you had this tunnel vision focused on that, and that you kind of lose sight of everything else. So let's pay some bills real quick. This episode of Panthers Collective is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picking app. All you got to do is pick more or less on your favorite player stats. You put a combo together of 2 to 6, and you get them correct, and you win. And it's available in over 40 states. Yes, 40 states is available in. They are the sponsor of this. I have season projections pulled up, guys. We can go through a few of these. They have season long. They have games you can do. They have Bryce Young slated for more or less 3,099.5 yards. So if Bryce Young throws for 3,100 yards and you pick more, it would be correct. Do you guys think Bryce can surpass 3,099.5 yards? Is that more or less for you guys? How you feel?
I mean, I'm sure McMillan and Brazel, Xavier and Jalen Coker certainly hope that he can hit that threshold. But like we were kind of talking about before, I don't think you draft a Chris Brazel without the intention of taking some shots downfield. What do you think, Jeff?
I'm going over.
Yeah, I think
I'm not going like 3,500, but I'm going over 30.
Over.
Yeah, if he doesn't hit 3,100, something not going to wood.
We're having a different conversation about this extension. Yeah,
he probably got hurt. If that's my eyes, just because I just don't see. I don't know.
Last year he was what, 3,011? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. I think that's about right. So
and he was 3,011 because we had this in our our survey, and most people had him. Most people thought he'd be between 3,000 and 3,500.
Yeah. So that was in 16 games last year. So if he plays all 17, that's kind of whatever. Passing touchdowns.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Passing touchdowns, they have him at 20.5. Is that something that you think he can surpass, more or less?
You said 20.5?
20.5 passing touchdowns. Yep.
Yes.
Joe?
I'm taking over on that.
Well, yeah. Why? What? Explain your rationale, Sheena.
20.5 touchdowns?
Yeah.
I think he bypasses that. I mean, again, I do think, I know there's some trepidation with Idzik back there, but I think that, I think that we see a much more dynamic offense versus conservative. I think he takes more shots and more chances. And they get Jonathan Brooks back.